Hi everyone, I'm Mohammad Kardan. In this video I'm going to tell you what do we do for our texturing part. Okay, after blockout phase we have to make some textures to making feel better for the rest of our scene. As you can see, this room with textures makes a lot of difference compared to the black and white. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how did I texture this environment. I had a lot of problems with texturing because I thought that for these walls I have to make efficient UV for this part, and what about this part, you know, so many back and forces. And I realized and I learned, as I said, with Emil Sligers, he mentioned that for our walls and floors we don't need to make efficient UVs for our textures. We can make a shader in our Unreal Engine. I made a master material and we call this one a shader. So what is shader? Shader is the system of texturing and material in Unreal Engine. As you can see, we have base color in here, we have base color, metallic, and all of that. So how can we use our texture without UV mapping? Because as we all know, textures must be at in 2x2 or 4x4. We can't make it textures like, for example, 2x6 or 2x8. But as you can see in here, my texture doesn't stretch. It works really good. However I scale it, it's looking the same. It's all because I've made a shader. And what is shader? Shader is a system that we use in our game engine that is really powerful, and we can do a lot of things. For example, as you can see in here, I can increase the brightness or decrease it, or saturation. I can make a lot of differences in here. For example, I can change the tiling of my floor. Do you see? Like that. They become smaller and smaller, or you can make it bigger, for example, like that. You see? So I worked a lot for this master material. I watched Emil videos. He did blockout for blockout phase, then he went to the texturing phase.
Okay, so in this chapter we are going to get started by...
Let me show you. Yeah, here it is. I've learned this shader without a UV for our texturing with his video. Then a function we need is word align texture. I followed a lot and I made a lot of differences in here. For example, I use brightness, saturation, contrast for our base color. For our roughness, I did some stuff to decrease or increase our roughness. Or for dirt, or for our base tiling. Okay, and I made it a little bit clearer, more clear, and put them on cache and put the cache to the master material. Okay, so it's a big thing. I can explain it right now, but the whole idea is that if we use word align texture and put our texture in here and our base tiling in here, we can use our textures without any UV mapping on this asset, on this block. This world align texture, it doesn't rely on UV map, it's rely on world position. And when I move it like that, nothing's break. It's all good. If I scale it, it's good. If I decrease it, it's good. No? So that's a really good thing. For example, in this part, as you can see, I've scaled it. For this part, I scale it. Nothing's changes. It's all good. Okay. So let's go to another subject, because it's a big subject. I can't explain it in one video. So how did I import these textures, this texture or this texture? As we were know in our reference, let me show you. We have this texture, as you can see, this wood and some ties between them. Okay, so I've downloaded from polygon.com this texture and the floor. The floor, it's a parquet, as you can see, and this is the parquet, and I can't find the wall, but I have it in here. Let me show you. Wood. So this is our floor texture. This is our balcony texture, and this too. Okay, so for the wall I used this texture. It was this one, but it didn't have any tiles, so I put it in Substance Designer and made this mask. Okay, and put this mask on our texture. I put the textures on the Substance Painter and did some edit and made these four textures, as you can see, glossiness, normal, and all of those. Then put all of these textures into our texture wood, and this is the texture. This is the texture of our wall, and for the floor it's in here, and for the balcony I use this texture. These three texture I could make most of my wood scenes. Okay, so for the wall I used I used a plaster texture, again from Polygon. Where is plaster? Yeah, I think one of these textures are this one. Yeah, plaster 035. I use this one, and with shaders I changed the color. As you can see, the main color is white, but with shader I changed it. There it was pink. In here we have blue. In here we have yellow. Okay, so with four textures I used textured all of my stuff, and with shaders, and I didn't have to be worried about UV mapping and UV of these stuffs. There is no problem with that, and the texel density is okay, because my textures was 4K by 4K, was 4K resolution, and my base where is it? My base styling is 200, so it means that the technical stuff is okay. I know that. I searched, I read I read and I'm sure. So here is our texturing. As you can see, most of my walls has textures. For example, this wall is a little darker because, again, with shaders I used I manipulate them and all of that. Yeah, so let's go for the next video. I think that's enough for explaining. For these glasses, for Windows I use the starter content of Unreal Engine for our window, and some metal we have it in starter content. I used it, and yeah, that's it. We have too many options to put our texture on. For example, double click on blockout and put our texture in here, and all of the sudden everything's gonna be textured. For example, let me show you. For example, our wall is this texture, this clusters texture. So if we, for example, do for example this gray, as you can see, everything is white. Yeah, it's simple as this. And for other parts, we are going to do, for example, this part on the top, something on the other side, something we can drag and drop, for example, like that. Yeah, these are so simple, so I'm not gonna explain anymore. So here we are, this is our textured part. So from now on we can do what? We can do improve our shader for the rest of our assets. We can do so many dirt in here, making some make our shader bigger to have more options for changing our stuffs. And what else we can do? We can import more textures for using more woods, more metals, more plaster, to changing our environment a little bit more. For example, this part texture, as you can see, is different than this part and than this part. Because I imported them, I did some make some new folders. For example, decals, fabric, tiles, rugs, plaster, wood, metal, and imported them in here and made some material instance from our master material. And I did two of them. One of them is working with UV, one of them without UV. And as you can see, this is with UV. It doesn't use board align texture, and so on and so forth. So let's go to the next video that I'm gonna tell you some tips about our UV, because as you can see, I did for example, for this block I did 3 different material because it has some reasons. So I'm gonna tell you about that, and some notes about our light mass resolution, light mass, what are these, and let's get to the next video. So see you soon. Goodbye.